Well, boy, howdy. Welcome to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio. Tonight it is Shane and Scott in the digital house here talking to you. Paris is gone. Don't worry, he's not in Facebook jail. He's not in YouTube jail. He's not in jail. He's actually with his family having a good time. His family's in town. So we try to afford time so people can go do life, right? That's
Exactly.
life is worth living. And if you're not living it, you're just surviving. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Like the highs and lows, the system, the non-system sections. Like we're going to delve into some weird, wild stuff. But as we talk about surviving and more thriving in the system, I want to remind you guys of one of our favorites, Survival Frog. I showed you guys a couple weeks ago and a couple times lately. I've shown you guys the battery bank car charge jumper box, right? They've got an updated version of this. I've been testing out some of their products they sent me, and their little collapsible solar panel battery bank that you can just plug your phone in and charge. I've been testing that. It charges indoors, it charges outdoors. It can hang off your belt loops, it can hang off your backpack, and it all folds flat into this small little thing. I'm going to post about it in our group, but it's sweet. Go check out survivalfrog.com. Use the code PrepperTalk10. You'll get 10% off everything on the site wide, and they also have the best survival meats so that you're not just surviving, you're thriving. So without further ado, Neo, are you ready for the pill?
I took that pill a long time ago, but it like you were saying is, man, if you don't have some meat when it hits the fan as part of your survival foods, it's going to be more surviving than thriving. Because I mean, we won't get into that, but when it comes to health, when it comes to exercise and protein, the carnivore diet, all these, I don't know if I want to call it a fad, because it's probably a little bit more than that. You got to have some good meats, good proteins that way. And I'm swinging more and more that way. I was more of a minimalist that way. I love veggies. I absolutely love vegetables, grains, breads, carbs. I love carbs. And I have no problem. You can see I have no problem with carbs. I'm pretty slim. I'm on the camera, add some weight there. It looks like, but yeah, meat's definitely important for the family.
Well, it's like food fatigue. At the end of the day, you want as many options as possible. Meat's a nice savory option, especially red meat. It's got tons and tons of vitamins and minerals that our body can actually process.
Yep.
We can actually process that protein, so definitely good to have. But like in the movie Matrix, once Neo became unplugged, once he saw the lies of the world that he lives in, he took the pill, the red pill, right? Green pill goes back to
blue pill.
Sorry, man. I don't know where green came from. He took the red pill and woke up. For those of you listening, you've probably woken up. You're probably like, man, how do we survive in this weird place that we call reality? We've all been red pilled, and sometimes we wonder, hey, can we just go back to blue pilling and just not have to deal with this every day? But honestly, I never would.
And sometimes to be honest, sometimes it would be nice just to not have to have any of these topics on my mind.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're heavy. But like you're saying is, I would not go back, for any price.
Yeah.
And I continue to be more and more awake, and my eyes are open more and more, and I can see the code. I can see through the code. I can read the code a lot better than I could when I first I guess became a prepper, took the red pill. And for me, it's been more of a process rather than just a single shock to the system like Neo, right?
Yeah.
And obviously it is for everybody. It's a process. And, the topic tonight is I think a lot of people who look at preppers or preparers or survivalists, they think we're a little crazy, a little wacky. They think we're scared of everything, when it's really not the case. And if you delve into our world a little bit, you'll see is obviously when you're prepared, you don't fear. And that's the absolute truth. But it is still difficult. It's the long haul, right? It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And it takes a long time to get adequately prepared. And we'll talk about that more in our next segment. But it can be very daunting, and especially with the economic situation conditions we're in now. They keep
Right.
getting more difficult. Money doesn't go as far. It's harder to get prepared. And that can be more daunting, especially with debts and interest rates and everything that's working against us.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because like when you wake up, your first thoughts are, what the crap? And the more you learn, the more you're like, you repeat that every time you learn something new. And you start unchaining yourself emotionally and mentally from the system, even though physically you can't fully eliminate the system, right? We're all born into and then programmed over a lifetime to work and live within this system, the matrix, I guess we can call it. Um, and oftentimes we just find ourselves in what just a steady maintenance life. Just, I've just
Mm-hmm.
got to get through today. I've just got to get through today. I can't wait for the weekend. Right. And that type of living isn't living. And also, once you understand what the matrix is, it's like, okay, well, then how do you actually thrive in it?
Well, if you think about the Matrix itself, for them to actually get out of the Matrix, it was, baptism. It was an extreme event. And once they're out, they're out.
Yeah.
For us, it's not the same way, right? We can
No.
see the Matrix and still be in the Matrix and be the gray man and participate. Although that, for me, is the more painful part, rather
Well,
than trying to prepare and being afraid of things. No, the opposite is true for me. That's where I don't want to be. I don't want to be in the system, but yet I'm compelled to be, and that's where I have a
yeah.
problem.
When I look at it, like you're unplugging a layer at a time, or you're peeling back the layers of an onion to make yourself more independently resilient, where you don't need eventually the system at all. Right? That's kind of
Yeah.
where we all see the future going, anyways.
Hmm.
Is to a point where the system's gone and it's replaced with true liberty, and we have to start over.
Hmm.
I mean, shoot, that's what we talk about every time we talk about gold and silver. But
Hmm.
like living today, when I first started understanding why my family prepped as a kid, as a teenager and as a young adult, it really started to sink in. And then I was exposed to the greater aspects of life and what's going on. Like you get your first job and you're like, oh, sweet, my paycheck. I made $500. Where's my $500? It's $370. Why is that only $370? What's social security? What's tax? Why am I being taxed by state and
Hmm.
federal? Right? What's this Medicaid, Medicare nonsense? What's right? They nickel and dime everything out of you, and we're all in a slave society because it's involuntary. We did not choose
Hmm.
these taxes and these fees and these systems to be on
And
top of us.
can't opt out. There's no way to opt out
Yeah.
other than like Neo did. He when you leave the Matrix and you're out of the Matrix completely, right? You have to
Well,
go dark, and that's just not something that most of us want to do or are
mhm.
willing to do. I mean, that's very extreme nowadays, right?
And many of the people that I've talked to that have gone relatively dark, they're not completely dark. Like they're still reliant on our economic system, right? They're still reliant on like they have to rely on the government for roads and maintenance and structures and systems around them, and we still obviously are abiding by the laws of the land. And I don't know anyone that's fully unplugged. I don't know that it's possible.
Hmm.
What I do know though is you can do the best you can with what you have. And going back to prepping, it's to me it's always, I'd rather be 10 years too early than 10 minutes too late.
Hmm.
And as I learn more and as I'm aware of more, I can choose, because I've built up some resilience and I've built up some layers of protection, I guess, against the system, right? Some self-reliance. Those layers of self-reliance give me the ability to not have to worry about different aspects of the system.
And they
It's
give,
security, it's safety, it's the
yeah,
net that's around it, the warm, cozy feelings that our liberal left people are like, I would never let the system die, right?
mm, yeah.
Or those who are asleep, like they think this is a warm, fuzzy blanket that steals from them, and that's okay.
And intentionally, I don't intend to refer to the Matrix that much, but it does come down to choice.
Mhm.
Ultimately, it comes down to choice. And I mean, the movie was way ahead of its time, but that'll be my last reference to the movie, which uh, that really woke me up. That movie really woke me up as well. But like you're saying, Scott, it comes down to choice. You can
Mhm.
choose to be in the system and participate, um, but also be awake and aware of your other choices. In that, you have a choice. We all have the choice to not participate, to not
Yep.
pay our taxes. We have the choice to not get a job, to not participate in the education system or in any of those. But there are consequences, and we can choose to live with those consequences, or we can choose to participate and be exempt from those consequences. Right.
Right. Yeah. You get to suffer the consequences of your choice. Whether you're choosing
Mhm.
in or out of a system, there are consequences either way. And you're blessed or suffer by those consequences, those choices. And what's sad is a lot of times nowadays you see the younger generations, the softer parenting idea hasn't worked because it's created softer people who
Mhm.
then are unable to make decisions to get themselves free of those, right? And then their parents will save them from the decisions they've made so they don't have to suffer the consequences.
Bailout.
And that's scary to me. I've had to suffer a lot of my own consequences, which many I've hated, but I'm grateful for in hindsight. Um,
Mhm.
but I look at this like tonight's topic. I look at it this way: like living at its core is about experiencing life fully, understanding the present, embracing the present, not being afraid of the future, but finding purpose and joy in the journey. And for that to happen, I love that because it aligns with prepping. And a lot of people might say, Scott, you're crazy for that idea. But here's why I think that aligns with prepping or preparing, right? I am living in the moment without regard of what will happen or not necessarily what could happen. I'm still enjoying the day. I'm appreciating and being grateful for every experience I'm having. And I'm working towards making tomorrow more free than today was. Right. And trying to live the best life I can possibly live on those within those parameters because we're all limited. I mean, even if we were Amish, you're still stuck in a system that doesn't fully let you be free. Right. The best example is dairy the dairy farmer, I think it was in Pennsylvania. He'd created a group that could buy milk, right? Raw
Mhm.
milk from him.
Yeah.
And then he was raided and they took it all and locked him up and took away his freedom, right? He didn't do anything illegal. He just did something that they didn't like. And he was Amish. And so you'd think, oh, they have a lot more freedoms. They're still stuck in a system, right? We're all still stuck in a system.
Yeah.
And it's finding the best way to do things and protecting yourself against the repercussions of the system, right? It's a balancing act, a high wire, if you will, of finding, okay, how can I live so that I can be present, enjoy the most, but also not have to rely on that system or worry about all the consequences that the system
Yeah.
enforces when you don't want to do the system's ways.
And more Matrix quotes are going through my head, but I will refrain. But
Oh man.
for me, from when you're commenting there, is that um, the key for me is to be able to see all the different uh, choices, all the different options, to be
Mhm.
able to see what choices you have. In the system, we are only given a certain amount of choices, right? You have
Yep.
A or B, right? You have left paradigm, you have the right paradigm. There are, and I think that's one of the hardest things that has been for me is to get out of that left right paradigm because there
Yeah.
are a lot more choices than just the left right. And that's all it's created, and that's part of the system is
Yeah.
that's been created. So okay, here's your choices, here's your options. No, there are other options, and that's what's about living, and that's more of our discussion. I don't mean to go down that different road, but uh, we're talking about living versus surviving versus thriving as as a prepper, as preparer, call yourself a survivalist, whatever you
Mhm.
want to call yourself, but and not living in fear or in uh, having to tiptoe
Yeah.
through through your existence, but
Well, I look at things.
seeing those choices.
Well, I look at things like we're conditioned that you have to go to school. We're
Yep.
conditioned that you then have to go to college. you have to have a 4-year degree,
Yep.
right? And then if you don't get a four-year degree, you'll never be successful. But in reality, you don't.
And that's shown its ugly face already.
Yeah, it's proven otherwise.
Hmm.
We're conditioned that you have to have a retirement plan invested in a
Right.
401k or an IRA, right? And watching the markets go,
Yep. Yep. Scary.
scary. It's enough
Yeah.
to give you a
If
heart
you have
attack
everything
sometimes.
in that, if that's where most of your retirement is, that and Social Security, there's a lot of uncertainty there. And you wake up one day, you look at your statement, and you're down 15, 20 grand in one day, in 2 days, like what happened this last week.
Yeah,
And yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. There are other options. What I'm seeing is that people do have no idea that there are other and better options, that they feel
yeah,
like they're stuck in there. Like, you know what? You can get out of your 401k. You can, there are other options you can do, right? You don't have to contribute. Oh, but it's free money. Our employer contributes. And again, left, right paradigm.
yeah.
There's other choices there that are much better.
Well, everything comes with a cost. And so understanding what
Yep.
the real costs are and what your real options are is the key. And it takes more time to really study everything out, to be informed so that you can actually make better decisions for your own liberty. Um, I look at the simplest thing, my garden. Having
Okay.
a garden affords me a couple major health benefits. I've got cleaner, more natural, healthy foods, right? I can go get it certified organic if I want to, but I've got cleaner, healthier options for me. It also eliminates the struggles of a supply chain, right? It creates levels of resilience, but it also gives me a health benefit of being able to be out there grounded. I garden barefoot, and so I get to spend time with the earth. And there's some psychological and neurological and electromagnetic benefits to our bodies, right? Doing that. Um, that's one thing, right? Then there's the other ideas like, okay, you have to have health insurance. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up without it, and I
Hmm.
miss that. I my current situations, we've got to have health insurance because of certain medical conditions, right? It's a hard one to get out of, but I'm like, if I went and did the same things without insurance, I would pay on average a
Yeah.
fourth of the price that we're being charged to insurance. When I look at that, it's not much more than I'm paying for my health insurance anyways. And I could be paying so much less and
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes be able to write off portions of that or negotiate portions of that off. And I'd have more freedom about what I'm choosing to do. And I wouldn't have to wait for some provider to approve it, right? That's one of the different layers of this control mechanism that this current life is in. And I look at that and then I look at things like, okay, our 30-year mortgage. Man, that is the most genius way to keep someone hostage.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Like, we've both been in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
A 30-year mortgage, and I know in some places you can get longer mortgages, and that baffles me. Like, the 30-year mortgage is a hostage situation that we willingly sign up for and can't get out of very easily. And even then, we don't ever own the home because then there's the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And at any given minute, if the taxes aren't paid for a series of years, guess what? The county, the state, they take over, you lose your house, and you still have your loan. Like, it's a prison. So what's the way to get around that? What's the way to live? I think really we need to all get to living on a smaller scale. Like, not being
Yeah.
tied down to our stuff so much. Like, my next home is going to be much smaller. I don't need all this space. The cost of maintaining it, unnecessary, right? The large mortgage, unnecessary. I'm really excited about simplifying.
Well, and that's, part of some of the agenda of the Agenda 2030 is to get us into smaller homes, smaller spaces, and tighter and smaller communities. And so there's a bit of a conflict there in that, yes, we can live on a lot less. I used to do a little bit of solar power, and I'd have
Yeah.
people call me up and say, "Hey, what can I do to get off the grid?" Then was a long time before everybody had solar panels on the roof. This was a long, 25, 30 years ago. Maybe not 30, 20 plus years ago. And I said, well, do you have $250,000 in an acre worth of land to put solar panels on? People had no idea. And that's still the case, but it's been sold to us differently.
Yeah.
And guess what I'm saying is it takes a lot of power to run a typical household with your big screen TVs and all your appliances. And to live simply, we really don't need all those things. Now, if we choose to do that, that's one thing. If we're compelled to do it, that's another. And that's kind of what Agenda 2030 takes us. That's what where the system is taking us, is we have no choice but to live in smaller homes, more close together in urban areas. That's their plan for us. That's not my choice.
Well, and it's
But
not
to
just
live
that.
in the country in a tiny home, if you choose to do that and live off the land and live simply, absolutely. If it's your
Well,
choice.
and even worse is they want you to rent everything.
Yes. Yep. No
Right?
ownership of
You'll
anything.
never own anything. Rent your car, rent your
Mhm.
house. Like,
Mhm.
I'm like, how is that going to work with food? Are you going to rent
Right.
your food? You have to take poop in baskets back to the grocery store. Here you go. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know, understand how the whole concept of 2030 will work. That agenda is absolutely, to me, ludicrous, and to you as well. I mean,
Mhm.
we're not meant to live that way. We're not meant to live the way our current economy, our current system, and
Yeah.
our global dynamic is built.
We really aren't. We've been so brainwashed from the very beginning in education. I mean, look at the food pyramid, for example, right?
Yeah.
It's totally bogus. And that's what I grew up with. And then they told us no, fats are bad. So let's put sugar in everything to make it taste good. And that's been proven wrong. I mean, there's so
Mhm.
many things we could keep going on that that the system is still pushing. We could talk about the VAXXs, we could talk about
Whole grain
healthcare.
made up.
It's cholesterol.
And what
That's
are
what
we
the
not supposed to eat according to
Yeah,
medical
yeah, exactly.
studies,
There's so many
right?
things we could talk about the system, but yeah, it really comes down. We're all individuals. We all like different things. Some people like sports, and they like to be in the city, and they like to be downtown. They like to go shopping. Okay, me no. That's enjoying your servitude, if you ask me. And it seems like, and I don't mean to talk for other people because I never want to do that, but it seems like a lot of these people who live in cities, they get out in the country and they say, "Oh, this is amazing," and of course their comment is, "Well, let's move here." No, I'd go crazy in a couple of days, right? Okay, yeah, because you don't understand, right? And so
Mhm.
that's just kind of my theory, my working theory. But those of us who Exciting, you grew up in more rural area, more suburban area, and not urban. Anyway, we had a little more of, and being our age, we had more exposure to, okay, get out of the house. You're not
Yeah.
sitting in the house. Go out and ride your bikes. Go play outside. And when the sun goes down, come home. Right. That just is completely different nowadays. And so I think maybe we're one of the last generations to live that kind of lifestyle, and so we can maybe our eyes are a little more open to those to that way of living, right? And that's changed obviously since my parents and my grandparents. I'm sure they felt the same about me when I was a kid as I do feel about my kids. You
Yeah.
know, my
Well,
dad
it's
was riding
funny.
horses up in the foothills, and very different lifestyle, and it continues to change, and probably you could probably say it's getting worse.
Oh, yeah.
Some people would argue with that, right? No, my life's better. It's more convenient. It's easier. And that's what the system provides. It's what it's meant to provide.
We're
Less
living
choice.
that we're living that movie, Wall-E.
Okay. Yeah.
Everything around us they're trying to create everything around us to be luxury and automation
Hmm.
so that we don't have to do anything. And when the
That's
people on
becoming the
on
norm
the
life.
Star Cruiser saw the
Hmm.
plant for the first time, like, what is this? And they
Earth.
stopped looking at their screen for the first time. They're like, whoa,
Hmm.
what is all this? We need that connection to the earth. We need hard work. You and I, we grew up. I remember every day I'd get out of school, I'd hop on my bicycle.
Hmm.
My bicycle was my ticket to freedom. I could go
Oh yeah.
anywhere, do
Totally.
anything. My parents both worked, and so I could be gone till 7 without them really, not that I ever knew of, thinking about me, right?
Hmm.
So now our kids never leave the house. They've
Yeah.
got screens, they've got phones, they're like calling their friends. They might go out on Friday or might go out on Saturday for a little bit. But it's like I've got to pull teeth to get them outside because there's
Well,
too many conveniences, right?
Exactly. Well, let's not forget about the trend of homesteading, because
Yeah.
that is a big thing. A lot of people are moving away. They're starting their homesteads. They have animals,
Hmm.
and they are discovering or have discovered how life, I wouldn't say is meant to be lived, because that's different for everybody, right?
Right.
And they have decided for themselves that they know this is the way I want to live.
Well, they're
And I'm
realizing they
sure.
want to live with more meaning,
Mhm.
right? It's funny. Did you see the article that came out about the younger Gen Zs have discovered that they can save money by making their own coffee at home rather than going to the coffee houses?
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Yeah, recent study came out that it was astonishing that the Gen Zs are starting a trend to start making coffee at home rather than go out to all the coffee shops
So we're
because they can
coming
save
full
so much,
circle back around to the 70s again,
right?
right?
Everyone's coming full circle, and I think that's where that need for so many people to do homesteading and gardening, like we're wanting to go back full circle because we feel more connected that way. We feel more energized. We feel more free. We feel alive. And we want to feel that. Everyone listening to this, you want to feel alive. You want to have more meaningful experiences. The system's designed to drown that out.
Yeah, to disguise it, to hide it,
Yeah.
to not even expose it, so you don't even know that it's out there and it's real. They
Yeah.
think, okay, this is life. This is where you have your most choices and comfort and convenience. And that's, for me, that's just not the case.
So what can we do? What can we do to
Mhm.
have a higher quality of life, knowing and abiding within the system as much as we absolutely have to, right? But what can we do to have the opportunity to really live life again? Like,
Well,
what's your take on that?
I think the first step is just knowing truth, right? If you can't see it, and when I say see, that's really true understanding, which means truth.
Mhm.
And nowadays, everyone, or it is a popular thing that, oh, I make my own truth. I decide what my own truth is, and that's just not, that's not
No.
real. That's not true. uh, Truth is eternal, if you could say that.
Yeah.
There's not multiple versions of truth. So truth is the starting point, and that's where you can begin to see. And that takes experience. It takes, for yourself. You can't be told, again, back to the Matrix. You can't be told what the Matrix is. You have to experience it for yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
and we know that with our kids. They cannot be told anything. They have to learn it for themselves, and hopefully they make small mistakes, figure it out, and then move forward rather than making big mistakes, right? We want them to make
Right.
mistakes, but let's make little mistakes. That way they learn for themselves, and and they really, I couldn't be told. I had to learn things for myself. And at my age, I would like to think I've learned most the big things, right? I
You're
sure
hoping
hope there aren't
so.
any big things that I still need to learn, because it's getting a little late. Getting a little late. But for me, especially the last several years, me being in my 50s now, I know I've said this all too many times, but what do I truly value? What gives my life purpose? And I think number one is family. I mean, number
Yeah.
one, easy. I work at home, so I'm always in my office, or I could always be in my office. I could always be working, but I choose, and I really enjoy folding the laundry, doing the dishes, cleaning the house, taking care of everybody, making meals. That's what really gives me purpose. Seeing my family taken care of, um, and giving them some convenience and some comfort through my own hand. Right.
Yeah.
So that's, for me, that's number one. Um, and then from there is escaping the system as much as possible. Right. We've got to live in it. Let's make ourselves comfortable, even though we see the negatives, but let's work within that.
So I think for me, it's like I want to capitalize on what's working in the system and use that to my advantage. But I
Hmm.
also need, for me, I've recognized I need to unplug more often. This
Definitely.
year, I've made a more conscious effort to actually spend some time in the morning on a routine, if you will. I'm not 100% good at it.
Hmm.
I've fallen so off the path that I'm trying to rebuild those disciplines. But I think part of it is like disconnecting, like putting the phone down and actually living life, staying away from electronics for a day. I've started doing that, and it's so absolutely beneficial. And I feel like my relationships are becoming more meaningful, especially with my wife and kids. Put the devices away, and we started eating dinner as a family 3 times a week at the table. Like we
Mhm.
were here's your tray, here's
Yeah.
your bowl, here's like, where are you going in the house? Okay, make sure you bring it back. And it's like, why aren't we eating together? Right? Why are And as I was realizing, the Amish communities, they have dinner takes 2-3 hours. And I was like, what? And it was because that's their TV time, right? That's their
Mhm.
entertainment. That's their news of the week, the news of the day. They're communicating with each other. They're living more deeply connected. I was like, okay, let's try that. And honestly, it's way better.
Well, here's an aspect of that, like you're saying, it takes 2 to 3 hours. Yeah, like when I go to my property, yes, I have a microwave there, I've got a hot plate and whatever, but if I cook over the stove or over the fire, it takes a lot more time to
Yeah.
prepare that, to wait, and that can be done in civilization, right? We've
Yeah.
got microwaves, but you don't have to use a microwave, use the stovetop, right? Go out back, use and people do, like, if you like your meats, like we were talking, you got your grill
Smoker,
out back,
barbecue.
or your smoker, whatever, your Traeger, and so that takes time, but it
Yep.
also gives better quality of food as well as the experience, like you're saying. And so making those conscious decisions, choices, I'm going to not ruin my food by putting it in the microwave and destroying all the health benefits of some kind of whole food that I pulled out of my garden, but I'm going to warm it up in the microwave and ruin it.
Yep.
Right? It takes some time, and that's something that most of us don't have a lot of, is time. Right? We're trying to maximize the benefit of our time. I know that I'm very conscious of my time use.
And I wonder if we actually have more time than we realize. We're
Yes.
just inundated with so much, we don't prioritize the right things. I know I'm
Yeah,
way
no doubt.
overloaded with too many things coming at me, right? And so if you guys can relate to that, I feel like there's always another thing being added to the calendar, or always some other thing I'm supposed to be at. Um, but as I look at it, I'm like, if it's not for my kid, I don't have to be there, right? If it doesn't
Right.
bless my life or save me from pain, I really I'm less and less inclined to be interested in that anymore. I'm getting more protective of my time, and honestly, it feels great.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's definitely too much going on all the time. I'll tell you, once I started waking up, I stopped watching the news. Once I realized that every news
Yeah.
station is spitting out the same script, I was like, oh, and started
Yeah.
looking for alternatives. Right.
I've also reduced my I used to listen to music a lot, and I
Hmm.
listen to far less now. I'm just trying to educate myself most of the time. But
Yeah.
also, with if you use the word prepper, right? If you want to call yourself a prepper, uh, this is really the ideal situation to prepare your day, to plan ahead, so that you use your time wisely, right? Because if I think of a survivalist, it's like I'm living minute to minute or day to day. Excuse me. You know what I mean? So if you're survivalist, you're out picking berries, right? You're building shelters, and that's kind of what the general thought is of a survivalist, is uh, someone who doesn't collect things, right? They're a minimalist. They don't have a
Yes.
lot of, and that's yes and no. There's a bit of a
Yeah.
mix
Yes.
there.
No.
Definitely there's crossover, right, between preppers and survivalists, but and just kind of generalizing also. But being a prepper, we should be able to, if we're doing it right, be able to prepare for the next day and the next week. And not that I'm that organized or even pretend to be, uh, but there's a time and season for everything, right?
I was just
But
about to
I
say
guess
that.
what I'm saying is being a prepper lends toward, oh hey, let's we need to whip up some dinner. I got everything in the cupboard. I don't need to go
Yeah.
to the store. I got everything I need right here. And I guess that's kind of what I mean, right? Is that we have the resources, we have the self sufficiency to where uh, we have that freedom of choice to say, um, instead of saying, hey, there's no food in the cupboard, let's go out to eat, right?
Hmm.
That seems like that's where a lot of
I
a
wasted
lot
a
of
lot of
people,
money and time there.
yeah,
That's why I got up to 327 pounds. That's why I was such a fat fatty. right? I
Well,
chose convenience over living, and that never works out well. It never works out well.
yeah, and for myself, speaking for myself, is when I've done that is sometimes it's like it's 8:30 at night. I want to go get an ice cream, and then afterwards I'm like, I didn't need to do that. That was not necessary. It didn't make me feel really any. It tasted good, but afterwards I don't feel as good, and so I mean, it's tough. It's tough. Living in this world, in the systems that we're confined in.
Yep.
And especially when your eyes are open and you're awake and you know some truth, it's definitely harder than not. But
Yeah.
the result in the end will be far better if you choose to stay asleep.
So, guys, we want to listen to your opinions on this too. Like,
Yeah.
if you're not already in our group, Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance on Facebook, please join. You can even just email us. Our email is on our website at preppertalkradio.com. There's a link to the group from there as well. But we're trying to do things a little bit different. Most of the other places I've listened to or watched, YouTubes and everything else, they're fear mongering, and we want to help strengthen and reinforce your independence, your resilience, your ability to do and live how you want. So please, if you can, join our Facebook group. We'd love to have you. I'd love to hear your feedback on tonight's topic as well as any other. But we also get a lot of our content from the group. So please join in. As some of you know, I'm on a journey right now. My goal is to lose 100 pounds this year. And I've got some other goals too, including ham radio. I'm finally back on it. Yep, you heard it here, folks. It's finally going to happen. But here's the thing: like I've found, as soon as I started getting the right nutrition, my body changed, my mind changed, and I feel like I'm living a much higher quality life with greater mental clarity. I'm going to be sharing those supplements in the group so you guys can see what that is. We're going to eventually be sharing them on the podcast as well. What they are, I won't tell you the brand here, but here's the cool thing. I've learned in the last 90 days that minerals are the biggest shortage we have in our bodies, and that we're not hydrating correctly. Changing just a few things has changed so much about my daily pain levels with my back problem, my injuries. Today is the first time I've been actually able to do a full workout in over a year.
Nice.
Like, because of the right nutrients in my body. Guys, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and take care of your future. That's what prepping is all about. Thank you for tuning in and not tuning out. Any final thoughts, Shane?
No, I guess nothing particular other than I was going to say, like you kind of brought up that topic is both Paris, Scott, and I, all three of us are participating in this system. And yeah, we'll bring that to your attention here in the near future. And I'm definitely excited about it over other things we've brought to you in the past. And it's much more simple. And I'll just end it there. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Is of course, again, getting up there in age a little bit, I'm focused more on my health and exercise every single day. And because there are people that count on me, right? That depend on me. That's my main motivation. And for me, that's life. It really is. I don't care about entertainment. I mean, maybe obviously a little bit, right? But that's really low on my list. But I find I'm very fulfilled every day just taking care of my family, and taking care of it is for me is preparing, getting more and more prepared here at home at my bug out location. And that's really what I'm focused on. And I get a lot of enjoyment. And my training that I work on, both mental and physical training, it adds to that. And it's very fulfilling. And I don't need sports. I don't need the things of the world to be fulfilled.
You don't need that false entertainment to keep the masses calmed and forget what's real.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. My final parting words are this: live a life that brings you peace. It's more important than joy. And a life of peace is a life of preparedness. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We'll catch you on the next episode.
See you next week.